Once upon a time, there was a little engine called Edward. He lived in a shed with 5 other engines. All of them were bigger than Edward, and some boasted about it. "I won't choose you again. He wants strong engines like us." And you all know these stories. Edward's Day Out, Edward and Gordon, The Sad Story of Henry, and Edward, Gordon, and Henry. But we're going to have to go way back, way before the first engines ever arrived. Here we have 2 based on engines, the coffee pots and the sorter and middling engines. They all worked happily together until a year after the coffee pots were made. The sorter and middling engines are sent for scrap, as sadly too they were too expensive. Except for one. The sorter and mainland engines number 1 and 2 were sent to a small local scrapyard. But as for the only engine that was surviving was Neil, sorter and mainland number 2. He had stayed in that shed for a very long time. He had first thought he was going to be found, but not saved. But we'll get back to him later. Now here we are, back at the same place, at the same time, but we have to go back at the same place, but at a different time. Edward, you've been quiet. Can we know a bit about back in the day when you came? Why, of course, Gordon. And this is a story, and more stories, of Edward. Edward the Blue Engine had just been bought from the Furnace Railway with Albert. Albert would come a few days later. The coffee pots and sorter and mainland engines came off to celebrate. Edward's first encounter with a job with one of the sorter and mainland engines was Neil. "So, how are you liking it around?" "I'm liking it very good. Thanks. It is nice then the hustle and bustle along the affair. Wasn't that much hustle and bustle, but it was still pretty crowded." But then, just as Edward said that, he started to move. "Edward, what's going on?" I don't know. I feel like I'm moving." Indeed he was. He was starting to move faster and faster. Edward couldn't stop, so Neil came on and derailed Edward off the line, coaches banging into him. He was derailed, but not hurt. Nobody knew what had happened till they had investigated the problem. It seemed the 2 boys had gone inside his cab and had messed around with the controls trying to run away with the engine. The factory director talked to Edward, saying not to worry himself, as it wasn't his fault. Coffee Pots noticed that he was sad, so they tried to comfort him. He felt a bit better, and soon it was time to go, and he puffed off to his next job. Even though he was newly built and tender engine, Edward was learning shunting, with Edward doing everything great, especially from Neil and Glenn. Edward was enjoying his time and was happy to be with them until the sad day came for when the Sodor and Midland engines had to go away to be scrapped. Edward had to give a speech commemorating them. Still remember their true potential. Edward was having thoughts about this original station and remembering his first passenger train. Not Edward's day out, but before the bigger engines ever arrived. Edward was waiting at a station when... I have a question about those trucks, asked Edward. Yes? The coffee pot engine said. Those trucks don't look like the ordinary trucks on our line. What are they used for? Oh, said Gwyn. These are the construction trucks. They use it to build the railway. They might be, preserved once they're done with. Oh, I see. Bye, Edward. Goodbye, Gwyn. Oh, time to shut these trucks now. Oh, these troublesome trucks. Maybe if I hit them a bit harder, it might work. Well, I better go get some help. Edward had arrived when he saw Gwen and when he saw Tablowy helping Gwen. What's going on? It's these trucks. They're very troublesome and they won't be able to move. Both engines tried, but then, when suddenly Towpot came out of the bed. Stop! Stop, Towpot! Towpot slammed on his brakes, but it was too late. The engines had derailed. Oh dear, said Edward, and he puffed off to go get a crane. Edward shunted away the coaches so he would have room for the crane. Glenn took the unhurt trucks away. This would be a harder operation as only Glenn and Edward were the only engines in working order. Edward soon arrived with the crane, but he had forgotten the flatbed, so he went to go get it. Once he got the crane, he got ready to put back the coffee pot engines. Soon they were all on the flatbeds as Edward pushed them away for the crane to do the rest of the work. Glenn still came along to take away the unhurt trucks, as Edward was now controlling the crane. Soon Glenn had taken all the available on her trucks. Soon Glenn came along to tell Edward that he should take the engines to the works, and he would do the rest of the work. Soon, Edward took the crane and the engines and would bring back the crane as they needed to inspect it. For now, Glenn was taking the rest of the unhooked trucks. Glenn soon puffed away with the trucks. Soon, the coffee pots were back to work. Until hard times came. Once it was just the coffee pots doing all the work, and soon bigger and modern engines came along, 3 being 9462, or as known Alfred, Winston, and 87546. Soon it was World War I, and all the engines were getting ready to battle. After the war, the coffee pots were sent to the works, but would never come back. As everything was going terribly, the old trucks didn't have a museum to go to, so they couldn't preserve them. After, they had to sell the coffee pots. Everyone thought that they were all gone, except for one. And when I mean number one, I mean the number one. Glenn the coffee pot engine was hidden in an old siding at Farquhar, and you all know what happened to him after. And soon, they got their number 3 engine. And due to his age, Edward was given less and less more duties to do. And we'll talk about the number 3 in our next chapter. But in our next story, you will see our number 2 in one of his greatest moments. And bravest as well. Edward the Blue engine was getting old and was now pulling a tourist train so that the tourists could visit Bill and Ben at the China Clay Work. He was trying to pull the train, but it was just too heavy. Did you see him straining? Positively painful. Disgraceful. He should probably give up and be preserved before it's too late. Shut up. Edward's better than any of you. You're right, Percy. Edward's old, but he'll surprise us all. I've done it to her off. I've done it to her off. Edward soon arrived at the China Clay station, where they unloaded the passengers, so Bill and Ben could take them to the China Clay Works for a special trip. Soon after, the tourist train was over, as everyone had to seek shelter, as this was now a time of war. Edward was racing down the line trying to find shelter. until you wait. Oh, something hurts! My side rod, my side rod! They inspected and saw that there was a big dent and a shattered window. There was a big dent in Edward's wheel arches. Will you be able to find more shelter? I'll try. Come on, driver fireman. We have to run. But let's go. Well, taking your side roads off. Now you're like an old-fashioned. It was hard, but it still puffed on. Suddenly heard the planes and was racing. And by luck, there was a tunnel, and he raced right into it. I've made it. I'm here, said a familiar voice. It was Edward. Tired, weary, but bravely, he had arrived at the station. Sir Topham had crossly pointed to the clock, but when the passengers started cheering for Edward, the Fat Controller wasn't cross at all. Henry apologized for his actions and his rudeness, and told Edward that he was still useful and puffed off. Edward was told to get some rest, and he puffed off. And the other engines saw Edward's broken wheel arch. And then Toby saw that they had stayed respectively silent for Edward. And so, you think that I'll really be saved? Of course. Why wouldn't someone want someone like you? You are kind-hearted and really useful. Thank you. Hey, you, number 3. Yeah? You've been bought by the island soda, by the Fat Controller. So, go. But, just go. Right now. Just say your goodbyes and we'll be off. My pleasure working with you. Well, it seems like you've been bought, but I don't want to go like the others. I want to stay. I like this place. But you've been bought. I'm pretty sure that we'll meet again. I hope so, said number 3, as he puffed off to Soda. Well, Soda, here I come. Okay, everyone, we're getting a new engine. This engine has the number 3 on this tender. Also green, except a lighter shade than Alfred. Alright, yes sir. Good. Here's also Robinson at Atlantic. You're what the engine that I wanted. But sir, you were the engine that you bought. Isn't this the hurdle? It is, but I was told to get a Robinson. Please go to another shed of ours. Yes, sir. Pa, what a disgrace. Indeed. Why would someone go along with that old engine? I'll go get my train, sir. Wow, 9462 and 87546 are saying how terrible Henry was. Edward went to go hug the engine. Henry was hanging out one Who's that? Where are you going? I'm going away. No one wants me. I'm just a failure. Dave wasn't right. Nobody was. I do, too, but the director doesn't. He's just mad that he didn't get his Robinson Atlantic. His Robinson Atlantic? Yes. His Robinson Atlantic was the engine that we were told. Well, do you want to know my story? Sure. I worked in a little wharf with 2 narrow gauge engines. We worked happily together, but it was halfway that I learned my origins, that I was stolen parts from LNEI-1 and a Robinson Atlantic. I was sad, but still kept on staring. One day we were all gathering. The controller came up telling that the wharf was shutting down due to finance reasons. I'm pretty sure he just cared more about the money than us. Probably low on money, and he needed to waste it on something else. Walked away. They were told to go back to Wales. I was told to go to a small coal shed in Doncaster. That's where I met Dave. He was friendly and didn't mind to share his shed. As even though it wasn't his shed, he did like me. Although I guess he didn't make me a bit too confident. Others would think of me, as I heard when I was leaving some mumbling at me being a disgrace. Oh yes, it was those 2. Alfred and 18546. I like that story. Do you want me to show you around? Of course, thank you. And Edward and Henry went off. What a disgrace that it is. It looks like they've taken out the LNER. Him. Or someone like me. Oh, couldn't they two just stop talking? How about I call you Henry? Henry? That's a lovely name. Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Edward. Number 3, sending you to work, pull a good string. Yes, sir. Woo-hoo! And Red Guard, teach him the ropes. Yes, sir. Come on, number 3. Be an old steam locker. Oh, steam locker. I'll prove you. Oh my goodness, there's something going on with this engine. Is it his boiler? I don't know. I think it's its firebox. The Fat Controller was very cross with Henry, that he eventually just gave up on him. He stayed at the back of the platform, serves him rides. Henry was still laying in the siding when... Oh! Some old twisted track had derailed once his crew gone into Henry so they could see better. Oh dear, Winston, are you alright? Yes, but the passengers, I need to get on the ferry quickly. I'll have a go at it. Henry came along, coupled up, whistled, and puffed off. The Fat Controller was waiting nervously for Winston, as, due to the fact that there were some very important people, but then there was Henry coming up to the station right on time. Number 3, the Charlotte does hear yourself being really useful after your incident. To this, I decided to give the number 3 to you for your bravery, strength, and effort to get here on time. Thank you, sir. What would you like to be called? Henry, sir. So, that's what it was. Soon after a bit of a tune-up, Winston was being put back onto the rails. So Henry could take him away with the breakdown crane. So, after lots of thinking, decided that the number 3 should go to Henry. Who? Number 3. Thank you, sir. What? The show heroicness and being right on time, still trying to be really useful, able to prove that. Thank you, sir. What about me, sir? What do we get? You, sir, have been a bit troublesome, but if you were able to prove yourselves, I'll consider you two to be number 4 and 5. Yes, sir. And Henry is as happy as can be. One day, Henry was inside the shed, and the Fat Controller was talking sternly to him. I don't understand it, Henry. After a year or two, you've been starting to have the same problems. The months and months, you still have your problems. I'm sorry, sir. I don't know what's going on. You do know my origins. Yes, your origins. So, I think this might affect me in some way. I'll have to think about it. You will have Lord alert, alright? Yes, sir. Oh dear, what are we going to do? We're just going to have to slip it off, Henry. We're going to try our best. Alright then. Henry came along to his train. Sadly, at last at Edward Station or Wellesley Station, Henry couldn't go any further, as the Wellsworth and Sutter engines had been sold away to another railway. Inside the cab they were checking him. So what seems to be the problem? Well, you see, due to Henry's custom rebuilt, he has a smaller firebox than the other engines and cannot do much. The only way to get him working is with some special coal. It's expensive, but Henry must have a fair chance. Whoa, slow down, Henry. I can't wait for you. Henry came along to the station, resting, remembering a long time ago that once he was given a very special job, and that he thought an old friend. But I shouldn't say anymore, or I will spoil our story. World War came and went, but the main problem was the restoration of Neil, and repairing the island was not cheap. They had soon sold some engines, especially Winston, to a Heritage Railway and some other little tank engines. There was supposed to be new paint for Henry, but sadly there was no paint, and he was kicked out. I think that type of green suits you. You're green with envy, ha ha! Henry still was cross with Alfred, but as usual, he ignored him. Don't listen to that bossy boiler, Henry. Any shade of green is splendid. Henry was happy, and the paints could wait, as now they had to get to work. There was a small little switch track, and it was usually a bit risky, as sometimes the track wouldn't align, as sometimes the trucks went north, and sometimes they went south. But there was one incident. Henry was taking onto one line, but one of the trucks started to put on its brakes. Henry tried to push it in reverse, but so he did a mighty lift, leaving two trucks dangling on the line. Until it was Neil taking a tourist train, but it was far too late when he saw what was up ahead. He had derailed it. Some of Henry's trucks were derailed, but then, goods train, why? Hello, Henry, wait, He had crashed into one of Henry's trucks, spilling a bunch of rocks, ruining his splendid LNER paintwork. Which meant now Henry was able to take both trains. So that's what they did. Coupled up to the goods and the passengers, and they puffed off. Soon, 87546 and Henry came along to take them away. Oh, why must this shut up? You've been complaining all day. 87546 wanted to say something, but he didn't. Most of the journey was moaning from Alfred, and Neil was told that he'd be put into a museum a few days later. Once an engine-attached train was afraid of a few drops of rain. He puffed into a tunnel and squeaked through its funnel and never came out again. As you all know, this engine's name was Henry. His driver and fireman argued with him, but he would not move. The rain will spoil my lovely green paint and red stripes, he said. Or so everyone thought. As you already seen this story, we're going to tell you the actual reason why Henry is afraid of the rain. We should go back a little. Once an engine attached to a train was running along in rain. He used to work on an old railway and puffed along the rain. But suddenly there was trouble as a rock was thrown at the rails. The rock sent the engine on a direct line that crashed it into another train. The passengers only had a few scratches and bruises, not that much. Henry thought that somebody had accidentally dropped a rock, but he was wrong. Later investigations showed that the problem was that there was a rock thrown down from an avalanche by rain, and Henry couldn't stop in time because of it and the rain. So Henry stayed far off of the rain. He stayed in the tunnel and did not come out. So they tried many things. First they pulled him, no use, because the fat controller didn't help. Then Max was pushing it, still the fat controller didn't help. At last, Winston came while he was pulling a train, tried pushing out of the other end. But no use at all. So Winston took the coaches away from Henry. The points switched. As he pushed the coaches to the next station. And then, of course, there was the incident with Gordon bursting his safety valve. So they took away the back wall, where it was taken out and pulled the train. But you all know that story, don't you? The green engine was placed with a special duty. This would also be an advance to the series old friend Neil. He was pulling a train called the Flying Kipper. With this special coal, he was able to now take these trains. But one night, everything would change. It was early in the morning, around the 5 o'clock. And Henry was taking the Flying Kipper again. He was puffing down the line. He had went past Denolt's signal box, but there was trouble. Ice had frozen the tracks, and had also put the signals sending it towards green. Henry came along and puffed down the wrong line. A back part of our train was left along the line, which caused trouble. The crew were thrown out inside the brake van as well as the guard. Henry's crew, when they saw it, the train, they had jumped out with a couple of bruises. I'm sorry, sir, but the signal was down. Don't worry, Henry. Ice and snow caused the problem. And besides, I've been thinking for this a while, and I'm gonna send you to crew. They'll give you a proper shape, and you will no longer need Welsh coat. Thank you, sir, Henry said. Soon James came along and took him away. Henry was given a proper shape, new tender, and he was now able to take the express, and he did so well that Gordon, the big blue engine, was jealous, which is the next engine that we will talk about. engines were at the sheds. They were all tired and exhausted and were nice having a rest when the factory controller came along. Hello everyone, I understand that you are tired and bothered, so I've bought a big express engine for the express so you can all do other duties. When will this engine arrive, sir? Today, just like Henry. Beep, beep. That must be him. This is Gordon. Elenina RA3 has already been painted in the blue colors. Hello, Gordon. Hello, I'm Edward, and this is Henry, 87546, Winston, and Alfred. Ah, I see. Even though it's not a grand welcome, at least I get welcome. Anyways, Gordon, you'll be taking the express. Thank you, sir. Since you are an express engine, that'll be your first job. I will be there. Some of the railway board. Why, thank you, sir. It would be an honor. So, who's going to get my coaches? I will. Thank you, Edward. Boop, boop. Edward, can you go a little faster? Sorry, but this is my speed. I'm usually the center. Isn't that any smaller engines like tank engines? Well, they were the SMM engines and the coffee pots, but they all got scrapped except one of the SNM engines was rescued and is now a museum piece. Why can't he shunt? He's too old. Oh boy! Boop, boop. Oh, must be off. My! Slow down! You're walking so fast. You'll be knocked off to bits like that. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. Ha! Soon he arrived at the last station, and during it he had arrived at 100 miles per hour, like his brother flying Falcon, and he was 20 minutes early. My goodness, Gordon, you're 20 minutes early. Indeed, sir. Also reaching 100 miles per hour. 100 miles per hour? Gordon, that is an incredible speed. You don't have to prove anything. Please, after today, go to our shed. Yes, sir. Boop, boop. After lots of thinking, decided who the number 4 will be. Gordon. Everyone whistled and whistled, except for who interrupted. Sir, I thought you said that 87546 and me would get the next numbers. Only if you behaved, which you are certainly not. Sir Gordon, what would you think? It would be an honor, sir. And you will also pull the express. Thank you, sir. And from this day on, Gordon still pulls the express. Alfred was in his shed. He was very cross. And nobody knows what happened, but it seemed that he got insane. Henry came along with some tankers. Some fuel tankers. Then Edward came along with some troublesome trucks. So, it's the end. isn't it? What are you talking about? Me and all my friends have reached our end for just being troublesome. We ain't gonna be troublesome for a week. I'm gonna be sent away soon, and the modernization will come, but I will not experience that because of that wretched Henry and Gordon. Maybe if they were gone, I could be the number 3 or 4. What? Are you mad or something? But Alfred wasn't listening to the trucks. Looked over the tankers. Where's he going? Oh no. Oh no, he's gone insane. What do you mean? Remember the yellow truck? Yeah, what about him? He was the mentally disturbed one. And he straight up ended his life by going in a severe accident with another engine. Well, not really, as he did uncouple from the train and miss another, but he ended up exploding with all the other trucks we were to be repaired, but he went insane and crashed into a bunch of fuel tankers. Oh God. Do you think that's happening to him? Seems likely. Dare I say, Gordon, why aren't you bustling and going about? Well, you see, dear Henry, I am taking a rest. Need to rest my wheels. Oh, I see. What's that whistle? There isn't a train in an hour. Sounds like Alfred. But he isn't supposed to. But he was the one who's supposed to take the next train in that hour. What are others? Fuel tankers? What? Bye-bye, Gordon. Bye-bye, Henry. But as if by luck, the pointer switched, for it went down the other line. No! I'll be back. Just you wait and see. Oh my goodness. Oh dear. You might also ask, why did the crew go along with this? But the crew were not involved. Alfred somehow was able to move. Nobody would know. But he was going to end Henry and Gordon's lives. For an evacuation, Henry's coaches were used as he puffed off, running away to the station. Gordon's crew came back and took him away. Everybody but 87546 attended to Fact Controller's announcement. I'm sorry to say that 98462, or as we all know as Alfred, tried to end Henry and Gordon's lives, but has failed by the braveness of one of our signalmen. We do not know what happened to around his head, but it sure was disturbing. What will happen now, sir? The siding will be repaired, but we'll have to relocate from Vickers to Tidmouth sheds. Right, sir. And I shouldn't tell you anymore, or I shall spoil the next story, but there is something that I will tell you. 87546 was sent away. Nobody knows the exact details, but 87546 was placed in an old scrapyard barrel, and the governor of Sodor needed an engine, so he bought 87546. They had also found a very good coach, and the governor bought them too. Sadly, this left 4 engines, later 3, as Winston was sold to a heritage railway and was told to be returned later. It left 3 engines, 2, 3, and 4. But now we will talk about their relocation in the next story. The old museum had closed, and the Fed Controller had a wonderful idea. He gave Neil the first engine to ever be at Vickerstown Sheds as a museum piece. As now, Vickerstown Sheds was now a museum piece, as now they were relocating. So Neil had got used to his new home. Now the engines were relocating, and they were very busy, as Gordon was taking the waste from the Tidmouth shed and coming and getting the trucks. They had fixed the turntable and started to build a siding. Then they placed the water tower. Gordon was told to shunt his coaches and wait. He was cautious due to the fact that he was for a good train. A good train of all trains, a good train. Then, please shunted those trucks. It was me, Gordon, because this is my good train. Now you're told to take it on. Take your chance. Alright. Whoop whoop. All the supplies he was carrying were for a new thing, but he wouldn't know what. They had just fitted a new roof once Gordon came back the next day. Yes, a bigger roof. Before, it was a very small roof, beautiful, but now it should be warmer. He was the first to try the turntable, and soon the trucks stopped not at a shed, but on the new side. Oh yes, the trucks were smooth. Then he came along to the water tower. Ah yes, nice drink after a long day, said, then puffing in reverse onto the turntable to go into a shed. He came along to the shed to go in the shed. The first one wasn't his style, so he got out. But he enjoyed the second one. There was lots of room, and he stayed in there nicely. Soon the other engines were coming in. First was Edward, then Winston and Henry came along, but the first one to try it out all was Gordon. But Winston had some bad news. I'm sorry everyone, but I'm leaving. You're leaving? When? Tomorrow morning. But why, Winston? 'Cause I'm only a heritage engine. I'm supposed. He has a permanent engine. Oh, I see. So, tomorrow you're leaving? Yup. It's been fun with all of you. But you know, it's time to go home, said Winston. Everyone agreed. It was the next morning, and everybody was early. Winston came out of the shed. He turned on the turntable to take one last sip on Cedrian water. After his last gulp, he realized that he might have been a heritage engine that was working on solar, but he'd always work on solar because he felt at home. He felt like a soda engine. The Fat Controller gave a speech, and once he finished, everyone whistled and whistled. Needle puffed away. Everyone sat. As well as the Fat Controller. The Fat Controller knew that now he had to buy another permanent engine. And by selling 9462 and giving back Winston, he had enough money to buy an engine. But I shouldn't say any more, or I shall spoil the next chapter. Or as you might think, next chapter, we're gonna go a little bit off the standard gauge and go more into narrow gauge. But I'm saying too much. Scully the little old engine was here visiting a special friend, everyone who he had used to work with. He was talking about back in the day before Renee's left. They had worked hard together as they were brothers, from Wales to the Scarlet Railway. But it didn't take them long to get used to everyone. At first the passengers would simply got the floor work, and everybody knew them, and they knew everyone. Scarlet would see his old friend Neil. He was the one who brought him to the Scarlet Railway. But soon, due to his age, one of the engines came along to bring Erneas to a flatbed so he could be taken to the works for repairs. Scarlet was there too, as Erneas was out of sight with Neil. Ah yes, those were the times, but now all I do is sit in the shed watching the other engines go by. But anyways, I better be off back to the shed. Goodbye. Goodbye, Scarlet. Scarlet was in the shed when the Think Controller came along. What's the problem, said seems that there's an accident and there's a passenger train needs to be taken, and you're the only engine available. Alright, sir, I'll be on my way. Our Lord came in happily to the train, and soon he was off taking the train. He went through many stations along the way, and even saw some old friends. At the shed, the thing controller congratulated Scarlovi. I'll have to take you out more. Indeed, sir. Thank you. The engines on the Scarlovi Railway had been working very hard. It had been pulling passenger trains, but the controller had something to say. There's gonna be a new vintage train. It's you, Sir Handel, and you, Peter Sam, are busy. I've decided for Scarlovi to take it. Why, thank you, sir. I've been stuck in the shed all days. Indeed. And the controller walked away. Of course, we give it to you. That vintage train, as I heard, is very old. And you are the oldest. Shush, said Handel. Well, good night, you two. Good night. As our Lord didn't really care, as he went happily to sleep. What? Sorry, old boy, but you just can't go anywhere. Something seems to be jammed. Peter Sam, I'll take it. Scarlovi was sad. Don't worry, I promise that I will be good at the train. Thank you, Peter Sam. Peter Sam puffed up. Peter Sam made the train so well that Control decided for him to take the trains. And now Scarlovi was just like back in the day, where he was left alone in the shed. There was a part of the line, engines have to come slowly as the road gates open, and that was a very important part of the line. Next day, Sir Handel was boasting as he was now taking the train, as Peter Sam had felt ill. Hurry up, Ma. What's going on? There's been an accident. I'm gonna need your help. Right. There was a problem at the crossing. Sir Handel had busted right through the gate. They needed someone to come and help. Oh, hello, he came out. He had pieces of the fences, and they puffed away. Handel puffing slowly, so they had to put cones on each end. The woman had shouted at him for busting her gates. Sir Handel couldn't speak as there was a piece of the fence on his mouth. Soon, when the rubble was cleared and the cars went over the crossing, Scarlovi was able to push Sir Handel in the train to the station. Handel, still with the fence on his footplate and over his mouth, puffed off to the station. Henry was there as he saw the blue engine with the fence on him. He chuckled. Scarlovi told him the story. He couldn't help but laugh. Handel waited for Peter Sam to take him back home. The fence was still not repaired, but we passed it and we kept on. Good job, Scarlet. You've done me well. You have not only made up for a lost time, but also gave me less complaints. You will take the next vintage train. As due, we have to put it for free, as some people were late for their trains. But Henry was it. Yeah, but the other trains that Henry was late to. Oh. Answer, Handel. As punishment, you will be taking stone trains. And just because, to learn your lesson, you will have to put those pieces of fences next to that shed of yours. Scarlet and Peterson laughed. Even the controller chuckled and puffed out. Soon the fence was repaired, and Scarlet puffed out through it. As for Sir Handel, he was still clumsy. If his core duties had to cause around accidents. But that's just Sir Handel. Aloy had just been brought back after being in the works for a few repairs. There had been some new engines that came in. One that he knew was Rusty, a kind little diesel who always helped out. They came along the sheds where Rusty would unload Scarlet. Oh, you could talk to Peter Sam. Soon, once he was unloaded, he went to talk with Peter Sam. So, I see you met Rusty. Indeed, he's a kind little diesel. I like him too, but I'm not sure that Duncan does. Who's Duncan? He's another engine that the thing controller bought from a factory. He rocks and rolls and doesn't pay any attention to what he is doing. Oh, that sounds like an engine that we're going to have a hard time with. Indeed, but you know, we'll get used to him. I was about to say something else when, quickly, Duncan was taking a passenger train and stuck in a hole. Take one of the cranes and a work coach with some trucks. You should. Scully puffed off to the rescue. Aloy soon arrived at the tunnel. On the other side was Duncan, as they were trying to clear as enough rubble as they could. It's all should be tunnel, so not rabbit holes. You clumsy engine, it wasn't a tunnel, sir. It was you rocking and rolling. I was told to first try to put passengers out with Duncan. He tried, but he couldn't. So he ended up taking passengers home. Once the rubble was cleared, Rusty coupled up and pushed Duncan. Aloy had just come back just in time. There's nothing wrong with that tunnel. You were just rocking and rolling. This is a railway, not a dance floor, and you are an engine, not a pop star. Duncan was still complaining. Then he put his attention onto his tall funnel. If you cannot work perfectly, then I guess your career is on the line, said and walked off. Duncan thought he said quite enough. Scarlet puffed away to go find somewhere else to sleep. Duncan had another incident, but this time It was with passengers and the viaduct. I'm ashamed of you, Duncan. Passengers bring us coal and water. Bah! In what way? If there are no passengers, there's no railway. If there's no railway, it is us going to the scrap heap. Bah! Passengers are just complaining nuisance. You wouldn't be saying that if Aeneas was here. What does Aeneas have to do with this? Tell us the story, Scullery. Oh, here I go. Back when it was just me and Aeneas, I did all the coaches. But at last I couldn't. So Aeneas went on. Oh dear, Scullery, it's my turn to go now. You've been ripped off your wheels. And he pissed off. Come on, the tree trade and pissed off. Puffed off with his journey through the rain. He passed through eternally, expecting everything to be fine, but then... I got a cramp! One of Aeneas's cylinders was jammed on hard. His workmen were talking to him. Are you sure you can do it, boy? Anything to save the railway. This place is about to shut down, so I must go on. Come on, let's get a move on. We can't let them down. There's some adjustments. Passengers were getting anxious. Then they started to go one road. Another. And then another. His friend was there sanding the rail as he nearly stopped. I must do it, I must do it, I must do it, I must! Then, with one last puff, he was able to make it to the station. I've done it! Everyone cheered for Aeneas. Some even said, this is a magnificent railway. We'll be sure to tell all of our friends. Thank you. And from that day on, we had passengers and more that the railway was saved all because of him. You're right, Scullery. Passengers are important. I'll make sure to thank you for that. A very popular happily. At the sheds, everybody was talking to the celebrity, Aeneas. Thank you, Aeneas, for showing me my long ways about thinking about passengers. What does it mean? What are you waiting? Nothing happened. Well, it is nice to be back, because an engine happy is happy at home. One day, the Fat Controller was at Timid-Sheds, where the other engines were resting. Okay, everyone, due to Alfred and Winston leaving, I've bought a new permanent engine. Here will be our new number 5. When will he rise, sir? Now. Woo woo! Hello, I'm James. This will be our new number 5, like I just said. Edward, may you please teach him around that Fred? Well, she will be along. Yes, sir. Edward has been teaching James something, and now he's getting better and better. Little James, while you are stuck doing the small job, I'm off pulling the express. At first, James just ignored Gordon, but soon James was getting tired of it. Fine, I'll race you. Race me? Ha! I'd like to see you try. Boop boop. I'll show him, Gordon. I can beat him in a race. How am I ever going to beat Gordon? I have no way to prove how I cannot race Gordon. You might just, leave that word, just trying. But I can do that. I was so sadly told. Oh dear. Hey, wait. What is Station Master? Well, we need you to take those trucks and put some more. And nobody's gonna pull the train, so can you? Right away. James whistled and puffed him. Here I go, Gordon. I'm beating you. Hey! James at first seemed to be winning, but Gordon was catching up. Then, overhead was a train going over the crossing as they were zooming by. The gates were still closed. Not one of the trucks was stopped. The traction engine tried to move, but the cart wouldn't budge. They were racing when James saw this and put on his brakes and Gordon raced past. At last, the cart got out of the way, but not the big blue express engine. There was a big mess. James came slowly along. Oh dear, Gordon, are you okay? Oh, what does it matter? You've won the race. No, even though I could win the race, but I'm not leading you along. Driver, clear up this line so I can go and get the crane. Right, James? Once the line was cleared, James hopped away with his empty trucks. Soon James arrived with an empty truck and the crane. He came along to take the train. As James took away Gordon with some pieces of crossing on him, James, I'm very proud of you for taking the initiative, for helping Gordon in his time of need, even though we're doing something very silly. Thank you, sir. As for you, Gordon, you should know railway regulations. Yes, sir. I'm very sorry, sir. I have learned my lesson, sir. I realize that this is not a good way to treat myself, as I was being very silly. Everyone laughed, even Gordon and the Fat Controller, as if the Fat Controller walked away. And from that day, Gordon and James became firm friends. After lots of training with Stumpy and Puff,
James the Red Engine, after his heroic acts, was told to be now pulling passengers, so he went to go to find his coaches and was happily thinking of what it would look like.
James was imagining and imagining of how his new coaches would be when he looked back and there were two brown branch line coaches. Branch line coaches? Am I going to take a branch line? Would have been nice. Oh no, you'll must be taking local passenger train. I shall do. And James puffed up. For the first few days, James was being happy that he was able to now take coaches, but he was getting more crossed each day. Soon James was having a drink, but was still cross on the hot day. What is that? Switches and a buffer that leads nowhere. Next he arrived at the station, which was a bus stop station. Why can't people just go by rail? It's not suitable. Then it was the bed. These bends are too tight. I'd rather have longer and nicer bends. But the coaches always said that they liked it. James was heading towards the station and saw a line that had a shortcut. So, instead of going down the usual route, he stopped there instead. Once he had his drink, he puffed through the shortcut. Don't go, they said, but James didn't listen. Once he was on the line, rushing down the line, but realized he was at the same station, so he skipped it and puffed on. When James arrived at the station, some people were cross. Why are they all cross? That wasn't a shortcut, that was a turn. And now everyone is 5 minutes late. James realized his mistake and puffed sadly away. He coupled from his coaches. James, I'm not happy with you at all. I'm sorry, sir. You have caused confusion and delay for taking that turn. You can't turn from now with those coaches, but you are able to turn better than the first. James didn't like this, but he knew he was right. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir, he said and pushed sadly away. Go the right way.
Even though James is cross with a few nitpicks, he still doesn't go on any other line than his usual route, as he knows that he can be in big trouble.
Not that much happened on James's new line, besides more passenger trains, until Edward's runaway some trucks. James was on the line and was able to reach just time. And Edward was racing when the traction engine got in the way. And Edward came rushing and shutting his eyes as he crashed. As soon as traction was in the went off to go get some help. As soon Edward, who was doing all the good work of James's new line, he now had to be sent for repairs. For James saving the passengers, he was rewarded to get more passenger trains. But soon, due to Edward's accident, he was put on goods duty for the first time. The first time, everything went smoothly as it was after Edward's accident. Soon later, they had gotten there soon, number one. But then, Help! Help! They're pushing me! They're pushing me! I'm coming off the rail! James! Edward was right. Trucks can push an engine right off the rails. Ow. Don't worry, James. I'll go and get help. Soon Thomas went to work puffing very hard, cleaning up the mess. This'll teach you a lesson, said Thomas, and the truck always responded, Yes it will, yes it will. James's tender was battered, so Thomas decided to take him home. Soon James was sent to the works, and now we are going to see a fast-forward version of what happened in the works while James was being repaired. Soon James had been upgraded and repaired by making him a bit more smaller, a new tender, and a shiny red coat paint with a gold dome. You know all the dreams like the one about the cat and the struggle with coaches, as well as some newspaper and boot races, and meeting Thomas for the first time on his new branch line in Farquhar. And even though he has had lots of incidents, he is still a very splendid red engine. There was a problem at the sheds. The big tender engines were still crossing outward for shunting their trains. You can't do it, Edward. You're too old. Now you need a rest. And plus, tender engines don't shunt good, and I know. Hello, everyone, said a familiar voice. It was a bad controller. I've just ordered a new tank engine. He's from the LVSC in Broughton. He's an E2 class. Is he a tank engine? Yes, James. Great, now we don't need everyone to send on trains and show how undignified we are. Excuse me? No, nothing, sir. But before we meet on number one, we need to talk about a bit of his origins, if you will. There was once a harbor filled with 4 LBSE2s. There were specifically 4 at this harbor. Others were on other areas, either pulling passengers or doing other duties. Here we have 108, number 0 or Timothy, 107 who has been repainted brown, and 109. They worked hard together on this harbor and also were able to pull some train. Usually, everyone besides 108, well, we're already going well, but 108 still had some learning to do. Timothy was one of the first engines to ever pull a passenger train. As he was different from the others, he was the older guy that didn't have the extended side like 108. Soon, Timothy was puffing on, but there was some trouble. He was heading towards a bend, but then it got harder and harder. Due to the fact that their wheels were too long for the curves, 108 was expecting for Timothy to arrive 5 minutes, then he appeared. What's wrong, Timothy? How was I 5 minutes? I tried to build up steam, but it's too hard with our long wheels, and since I don't have those extended tanks, I'm taking up too much water. Oh dear. Well, at least you did well. Soon they were back to shunting, and sometimes pulling small goods train. But then there was an accident, and Timothy had to come along with caution. An engine who was leaving the sidings was very cross and started scolding at 108. But Timothy was stern and told Big Engine to get off, as if there were none engines like 108, they wouldn't get their coal and water from the harbor or any of their cargo. He puffed away. The controller came along and told Timothy that he was sent towards the island of Sodor. Timothy whistled and puffed off to the island of Sodor, 108 being the most emotional, as Timothy was like a father to him. Some of the things that he remembers mostly is that whatever you do, don't let your guard down, as changes may happen, but you'll get the best out of it, even if they're terrible ones. You have good experiences, and you will have many good friends. And now it was that change. Soon, it was 1915, which came with some downsides, as heard from Timothy on the Northwestern Railway had fallen off a viaduct, and nobody knew the reason why until a few years later. Some of the passengers had died, but that was only about 5 people. Most of them had severe injuries, and some were able to survive without any injuries. Soon 108 was told to go there as the new replacement shunter, as he was so devastated of what had happened. Beep beep! Here he is, our tank engine. Pah, like he couldn't even do anything. I guess he'll be useful for shunting coaches and seeing me go with the express. Fat Controller had walked away and had told Edward that he would teach him around, but first Thomas needed a drink, so he went onto the turntable and went around and puffed off to go get some water. Got to the water tower. He was filled up, but there's only a little water. Okay, so All the trucks here are troublesome, but the yard is even more troublesome as it's usually left in a mess. That's why you're here, of course. And as you can see, things haven't really improved. This place is still a mess. But I'm sure that you can fix it up. Yes, I can.
Rushing to and fro, he's the really useful engine we adore. He's the one, he's the one, he's the really useful engine that we adore. He's the one, he's the number one, Thomas the Tank Engine. He's a really useful engine, you know. So Topham Hadwell, he told him so. Now he's got a branch line to call his very own. He's the really useful engine we adore. He's the one. He's the one. He's the really useful engine that we adore. He's the one. He's the number one. Thomas the Tank Engine. Little blue train, he's always there whenever you need a hand. If you need help with a situation, who comes into mind? He's the one. He's the one. He's the really useful engine that we
That sure was a lot of work. Indeed, the Fat Controller is proud of you. He is? Yes. Look at this yard. It's perfect. There's not a truck in sight. But I do need to get that crate out of the way, so could you? Of course. Oh, hey look, here's a truck. Little Thomas rush picture. Gordon, stop! Stop! What? Thomas! You know what? I expected better from you. What happened? Well, it seems that Warner 8 has been... No, Gordon, it wasn't his fault. It was yours. I brought the crane because we needed that crate. But you came in puffing in at full speed. What were you thinking? Sir, seems I got in the wrong picture. I'm sorry, Warner 8. Gordon, next time be more responsible when you're coming in sidings. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Soon, the crane was getting to work on lifting back the truck and Gordon. Soon, Gordon puffed away embarrassed, not sure what to think. Well, 108 liked the name Thomas, and that's what he was called for here on out. Gordon still has his risks in his sightings, but now he is more cautious and more responsible when he's around them. Thomas is a new little tank engine from the LBSC who now works along the shunting yards at Natford. Something that is very rare for him is patience. Took you long enough? As they always seem to never have any patience. Except for Edward, nobody gives him patience at all. But the one who doesn't give him the most patience is the shunting inspector. He mostly does nothing but inspect the yard. and Thomas gets no proper patience with him. Come on, old slow coach, you can't be that late. Thomas working hard and no one appreciates it. I'll get a report, except for Edward. He was so cross that sometimes he would have accidents due to him. You silly engine, you should have been paying attention. Alright everyone, train 3 will be on platform 1 and 2. Took you long enough? One day he was talking to Edward about this. He never gives me patience, and neither do the other engines besides you. Especially that siding inspector, whatever his name was. Oh, you mean the shunting inspector? Yes, him. He never gives me patience. I always do something wrong, and sometimes I lose my own patience and end up in an accident. I wouldn't take much notice, because remember, one in charge here is a fat controller, not him. So you don't pay him any mind, Thomas. I'll try. Soon the shunting inspector got a new microphone, and it was even worse than his usual voice. Come on, little brown one. I need those trucks in order. Come on, little tank engine, I don't have all day. Oh, I'm right here. You don't need to use that microphone of yours. Don't question me and go to work. I can't even get 1 minute to rest. He bumped the trucks hard, which they didn't like. The shunting inspector had left some crates by telling workmen to leave them to pick up later if they had other duties. House was still crossing his people up with the trucks. They didn't like this at all. Pull him, they said. Now, where's that microphone? Pull! Wait, what? No! Ah! Cargo spilled everywhere. Money, cups, cones, lamps, other crates, and even a flag. Luckily it didn't all fall on the shunter inspector, but he was, although in some pain. Oh dear, what do I do? He went to go warn the station master. I hope this teaches you to better inspect instead of yelling and putting things in the wrong places. Oh yes, the fat controller came up to Thomas. I'm sorry for what has happened, and I promise that I will be more careful with your feelings and patience. But please be more careful. I'm not blaming you for the incident, as you have been a really useful engine, working very hard around these yards. Thank you, sir. I think I'll go to Nat for Chetzer. And that's what he did. The next day, Edward took the crates and wanted to good train. All the other engines have realized to be patient with Thomas, because if not, there could be trouble around the yard. As for the inspector, he recovered, but now I think he's a more responsible man, as he went back to training. But he never came back to the island of Sodor ever again. Thomas is a tank engine. He lived at a big station on the island of Sodor. He was a cheeky little engine with 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler, and a short stumpy dome. He worked hard all day around, shunting trucks and coaches to where they were needed. Thomas was cheeky and was terrified of a few things like the First World War, but he was still hard-working around the yard shunting trucks and coaches for the bigger engines to pull. But Thomas would get bored of the yard and wanted to see the world, as he would prove himself that day. We all know Thomas's few mishaps, like being impatient to pull his first train, being pulled at high speeds by the express by Gordon, and his trouble with trucks. He was resting in the sun and went, "Help! They're pushing me! They're pushing me!" And we all know what happened next. Soon Thomas had two faithful coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, who were originally James. Thomas had made many friends like Percy, Toby, and many more. And Thomas kept on working on his bird song for many years. So I'd like to thank Wilbur and Christopher Audrey for making the third railway engine, but as well as the #1 engine, who has his own show, like his grandson, with all of his friends. Happy 75 years, the Railway Series. Thank you, Wilbert and Christopher, for making such a great universe.
He's a really useful engine, you know. All the other engines, they'll tell you so. He huffs and puffs and whistles, rushing to and fro. He's the really useful engine we adore. He's the one. He's the one. He's the really useful engine that we adore. He's the one. He's the #1. Thomas the Tank Engine. He's a really useful engine, you know. Sir Topham Hadwell, he told him so. Now he's got a branch line to call his very own. He's the really useful engine we adore. He's the one. He's the one. He's the really useful engine that we adore. He's the one. He's the #1. Thomas the Tank Engine. Little blue train, he's always there whenever you need a hand. If you need help with a situation, who comes into mind? He's the one. He's the one. He's the really useful engine that we adore. He's the one. He's the number one. Thomas the Tank Engine.